if you're new here, this is a bit of viewer coaching. What I do is basically I grab people from the stream, I get them to come on and play. Okay, they're back. I get them to come on and play, and they fill out a form to say, oh, here's something I'm struggling with, and I try and help them live on stream. Get aware of some of their habits, some of their the things that are holding them back, and hopefully, in doing so, help out some of the viewers as well. So Kvetsi here is the first randomly selected viewer. Again, I do this live on Twitch, so if you want to join up, then make sure to join on Twitch and stuff like that. But Kvetsi said they struggle with people being super aggressive and being predictable in general. So I'm going to try hammering my head against the wall here for the first maybe game or two. This is going to be a best of 5. So 3 games at least to get the habits down. So this first game I'm kind of just going to go full in, all aggressive, see how they handle it, get a sense of their habits, and then work from there. Maybe second and third games, or fourth and fifth if it ends up going to that. I'll start to be a little bit more passive and laid back and see how they handle them being aggressive. But for right now, they did say they struggle with that, so I'm going to try and work according to those parameters. I am doing this live, so apologies if I'm not the most coherent, but right away I am noticing a few habits that I will point out towards the end of this game. So number 1 is the panic jump option. This is a pretty common one. When people really get into strings or they get hit into edgeguard situations, they tend to really mash jump all the time. Which is how I ended up getting that first stock, that triple Sair. Every time Kvetsi, oh, you see there's the jump again. Let's see, is there jump again? And there's the jump again. Right, so that is the common habit that we tend to notice here. So that's number 1. And in the second and third games, I'll notice a couple more. Alright, second game here. Let's see if Kvetsi has the same habit to jump every time they get into a panic situation. And let's also notice some of the areas where they feel like they've been a bit predictable. So the first thing that I notice is them really tunnel visioning on this weapon here on the right side of the screen. You notice they're just holding into the right. Every time they want to get this weapon, it's pretty obvious that that's what they're going for. So yeah, you notice right away, if I just guard that weapon, suddenly they're in the orange super quickly. So that is one thing I'd recommend if you are someone that feels like you're pretty predictable. Notice the areas where that predictability starts, and then you'll start to be able to weed it out. Like, what is being predictable? Like if you break that down, like what does it actually look like? A lot of the time it's being tunnel visioned or always doing the same thing. But really at the end of the day, it stems from not really knowing anything anything else to do, or knowing that you're being predictable at all. So predictability, the way to weed it out is awareness. Just knowing that you're doing something, knowing that you're being predictable, then you can start to focus on it. So that's one area that I really did notice from Kvetsi, is that focus on the weapon. So notice that's what you do when you're unarmed, and what can you do about that? Well, maybe now you can start training some unarmed, or mix in your movement a little bit when you don't have a weapon. So let's see. Are you going to downlight here when I'm in range? Nope, you're going to go for that jump Sair. That was a good option. I had a feeling you would downlight because I was just hanging out. But let's see. I'm going to hit you back on stage here because I want to see how you play in the red. Seems like you do get a little bit aggressive, maybe trying to get a hit here, get this knockout. Coming back to stage, I'm going to dash back. Maybe you'll dare. Go for this weapon. Yep, dodged in right for the weapon. So that's another area where I noticed you were being predictable. No dodge in immediately, so that was good. I went for that ground pound to see if you would just rush to the wall, and you waited just a second, which was enough to get you to live, which I think is pretty good. Alright, so now I'm just going to back up. I'm going to charge this down sig. I'm going to see maybe what do you do to punish it, or do you continue to hold in on me? I'm just going to patrol center stage here, and yeah, it seems like you dash jump approach, which is not bad. But do be careful about always doing it at the same timing. So I kind of figured that you would go in right at the moment that I downsig. And if you notice the timing of when I released downsig, it actually was when you came in. It's just I wasn't positioned correctly enough. So that is another area of being predictable. Being off stage, that's a big one. I've noticed I've gotten a lot of damage from this Sair right here when you're coming back to stage. You kind of always hold in the same direction. One way or other ways to get on stage, you could do a bunch of things. You could dodge in, you could throw your weapon down, you could attack back on, you could just change your timing a little bit, you know, make me a bit uncomfortable. But right now it's kind of always the same timing, so I figure, yep, you might jump in right there. And then let's see how you get back to the stage in the orange. So if you notice, I'm kind of just patrolling the same area and I'm just waiting for you to come to me. And one thing to work around that is, instead of focusing on the game state being me waiting for you to instead make it so it's like in your control, if that makes sense. So when am I going to aggress? If you start focusing on that, I think the predictability can start to fade away a little bit, because then the game state is in your control and you're not playing to the whim of the opponent. Instead, you're playing to your own rhythm and what you decide. And as you learn more skills and more techniques and more things to try, like that weapon throw down that you mixed in, I thought that was pretty good. Then you're able to be less predictable and have more options to choose from. Sometimes your opponent will just read you. Unfortunately, you know, sometimes you just get outplayed. It happens to me all the time. So, you know, hopefully it doesn't happen too much. But Sometimes it happens, so don't beat yourself up too much if it does end up happening. But yeah, that is something I would recommend, is looking at the ways that top players recover and notice how many different options they have. That can open the door to being less predictable. All right, so now let's take a look and find something that you didn't mention in your forum about one thing that you struggle with that I will try and point out. I have noticed it before, but let's actually see if this is true, if my hypothesis is correct, and you know, I don't want to tell you something that's wrong, you know. So I'm gonna see if I notice it, and if I do, I'll point it out. And let's see. Yep, okay. So I've noticed that you always dodge in the same direction. And by that, I don't mean like you always dodge left or you always dodge right, but you always dodge in the horizontal, and you tend to dodge out a lot. And so that's the kind of habit that it does add on. It does go with predictability a little bit, but if you notice right here, oh, that's a spot dodge. Okay, that was a mix-up. That was different. So I was wrong. My read was off. But that is something to be careful about. Also, dodging a lot in neutral. If I'm playing like a heavy string weapon, I can get more punishes if I catch your dodge in neutral if you don't have your dodge up. So that is something to be careful about. Are you going to end sig here? Nope. You're going to go for me as I'm fading away. So here's another thing, is that you kind of, because I've been playing in this aggressive manner, and you did mention that you have been struggling against aggressive players, I think one thing to keep in mind is learning the spacing of people's attacks and dash ranges. So it seems like you go for some attacks in positions where I am, instead of positions where I will be, and because of that, I'm able to gain a lot of ground on you. So in a situation like with bow, or with a weapon like bow, for example, because I have downlight, I can go pretty much half the map with the dash downlight, and because you're attacking me like where I am right there, if I just move a little bit, then I'll be able to get out of the way of it. So I think that may be something why you struggle with aggressive players, because by the time that you're attacking, they're already in your space and you're already uncomfortable. So I think a way to work around that and to help with that is to mix up your timings of when you attack. So if you're always attacking, then you're always going to be locked into frames at a certain time, if that makes sense. Like, because attacking will lock you into frames. But if you mix up the timing of when you attack, then when you're vulnerable, will start to become more and more mixed up, and I won't be able to predict it as much. So that's a few things. Hopefully that helps. Recovering back to stage, always jumping when knocked off stage, dodging in the same directions, although you started to mix that up, which I thought was pretty good, and you know, I think you should be commended for that. And always attacking with the same timing. And then I did notice some movement things, but you know, that you are mid gold, which I think is you know, at a state where maybe focusing on timings of attacks is more important than just individual, here's how you move in X scenario, here's how you move in Y scenario. So hopefully that does help. Hopefully that helps some of the people watching. And yeah, that's it for the first viewer. Thank you, Kvetsi.